Excellent. All right, guys, do me a favor. You know the drill. We're a small group. We've got over, oh my gosh, I think we hit about 160 registered, but it's like people trickle in. So you move your mouse, please. See the share screen button, which is the green button. Go to the left one of that. It's the chat box. Please click on it. Paul, of course, has already typed in good evening, everyone. We know your name typically. So if you would just type in where you're from. Love to see this. Hello from Stamford, Connecticut. Alameda. Oh, I love that. San Francisco Bay Area. God, I would love to see you guys in March. I'm not sure if we'll be able to do Mania in March there. We've got Kirkland, Washington. We've got Ohio. We've got Minnesota, California, New York. We got people from all over. This is wonderful. I'm Sarah Cooperman, and I'm the CEO of SCW Fitness, Education, and Water in Motion. And I am thrilled to be here with these three gentlemen. Kevin Mullins actually got a sub for his program tonight, where he trains 14-year-old hockey players.
Yep.
How he survives that, I don't know. I don't know, Kevin, if you know, I have 4 boys, all were travel hockey players.
You've already earned your spot in heaven.
Yes, I have, and you should see my basement because it looks like hell. All right, with the puck, you know, all right. Anyway, Kevin Mullins is a master instructor and personal trainer based out of Washington, D.C. His work includes being named a 2-time Men's Health Magazine Next Top Trainer. He also contributes to major magazines, media outlets, and he has been training over 15,000 sessions in 10 years, and he's lived to talk about it. That's great. And then we've got my friend Paul Christopher, who we became friends through the pandemic, which is very cool, is an established fitness professional operating in the Boca Raton, it's Gravity and Oxygen Fitness Center. He's been there for over 20 years, and he is the founder and the brand concept guru of this program. And he's also done some amazing things, which really struck me, using turf, putting it outside and literally doubling his space by being able to move people outside and the inside the facility. And we've got the wonderful Eric Thompson, who we discovered and have not discovered, glommed on, and not let go of from Schwinn, from Core Health and Fitness. He's, of course, energetic and charismatic. He's a fitness instructor, personal trainer. He's recognized for his motivational coaching and results-driven programming. He's also, of course, a master trainer for Core Health and Fitness and Schwinn Indoor Cycling. So these amazing gentlemen, we're going to talk about kind of I don't want to say difficult topic, but it's an interesting topic, is integrating Group X and PT instruction with post-pandemic in-club training. Clubs are beginning to open up. And during the pandemic, Group X instructors, personal trainers, they began teaching and training their clients on their own because nothing was open. FaceTime, Zoom, we were doing it for free because we thought, oh, this crazy disease will last 3 weeks. So I might as well keep my people moving. These sessions have been conducted independent of health clubs, independent of any businesses, and instructors and trainers have developed their own business and revenue streams. And after this pandemic lifts, our clubs are going to open. We got to look at how are we going to integrate both independent and online training with in-club training. So that's what we're going to talk about today. Paul, I'm gonna launch on you because you're a club owner, you're a trainer. You got to deal. We were mentioning a little bit about the loyalty and about instructors, you know, and trainers. It's as you said, it was a right to work state in Florida. So how are you going to integrate both the independent and online training with in-club training at your facility?
So my team, you know, I try to stay true to form with having, you know, waged employees as opposed to just independent contractors. And I recognize that if they're able to chase both rabbits successfully, then they can platoon the ability to be independent and then also have their home base facility which we would call our HQ, Gravity and Oxygen. So some of them do have a digital presence on Instagram and having their own app where they generate their own virtual clients and do program design. I think as long as the lines aren't crossed with plucking and picking from our clientele to gain business on the independent side, then I think they're not rubbing me wrong. And I've actually, the antithesis thought would be to support them. How can I help you in these times? We're all going through a struggle. So how can I assist you? And in that turn, then they're subconsciously going to think, well, this person has always had my back. They're a big brother to me and a mentor, and I don't want to burn that bridge. So I think allowing to supporting them, because I've been there before I was a gym owner, independent contractor for 8 years. And I know what it's like. So I sympathize with them as they have to earn a living. And since right now, beggars can't be choosers, we need to take every penny that we can. So I can support them. They in turn, ironically, will stay loyal to us.
I think that's great. I mean, it's like kumbaya to the max, you know, and I do see a lot of that. I mean, this sounds kind of odd, but I bought a suit on eBay and I bought 2 pairs of pants with it because I didn't know which would fit because COVID-15, right? And I had to return one, but I had to return everything. That woman had to give me an entire refund for everything and trust that all the stuff I had in my closet upstairs, I was going to pay for. And she trusted me. And of course I did pay for it. And it was like this aha moment. And we were helping each other. And what I hear from you, Paul, is I imagine you've got very loyal trainers because
I do. I want to touch that thought too, because I just thought of it as well. This just happened yesterday. One of my longtime rock stars, one of my top instructors, just received notice that she made it to be a coach for a reality fitness show for Telemundo. So she now has to leave. She was supposed to teach 3 classes this morning. She gave me 14 hours notice that they said she must begin quarantining today, and she's gone for 5 months. So she told me in the conversation as she was crying that her mother had given her a hard time, that she wasn't prepared for this moment, and then also that the other facility she worked at, she taught at in Fort Lauderdale, 20 miles away, the owner gave her a hard time. So her mother's badgering her, her other boss is badgering her. What do you think I'm going to do? Add more salt to the wound? No, I'm going to be the sympathizing big brother and say, you know what? You cannot miss this opportunity. We can triage this immediately. It's no problem. We can handle it. And then we look forward to seeing you on the back end of this successful show. So once again, showing them some TLC will only provide good vibes and positive energy on the back end.
Definitely. And I love the way you were talking about digital presence. And Eric was sharing with us that he has been lucky enough and smart enough that he has also been training people for 5 years digitally online. And I asked him, I said, are you using did you use FaceTime? Are you using Skype? Eric, what was your thought process in this? And I know you're not sometimes face-to-facing them. Sometimes you're just, setting up a training. But how did you come to this?
Reason I did it is because I'm only one person. And at the time, my spouse and I were going through some financial hardship, and I needed to step up and take care of us. And while I love teaching group fitness classes, that unfortunately does not pay the bills as much as it's my passion for thing that I love to do. So I had to step up the way in which I was able to access more people, and also, make the return on the investment. And so the quickest way to do that was, I transitioned into online training. And so I was actually using Google Doc sheets for a good 3 years and creating really painful spreadsheets that took hours of work, but that's how I put food on the table. And and these intrinsically motivated people are just like, yeah, please write me a program. I don't need you to be there and count my reps. I've got this. So that way it afforded me the opportunity to deal with, and I tend to train in-person obese clients. That's my passion with regards to personal training. Is I love major lifestyle transformations. That's how I started myself. And so I was able to focus more of my in-person attention on those clients, and being able to go home and knock out, maybe 10 extra clients at night just via the computer. So that it was a better balance.
That's brilliant. And just for the people at home, I'm sure a lot of them would love to be able to do this. Like for me, I'm grinding out my emails and writing articles and chapters and books while the kids are doing homework. So for you to be able to do this at night, how did you begin? If you were talking to some of the people at home saying, this is a great opportunity, they're like, okay, how do I start?
It doesn't have to be fancy. I know with how the world is, start very small. The Google Docs sheet was perfect. And the price point at which I set it at was accessible enough that I had really strong retention and community based off of it and loyal clients. So that, it didn't have to be this super sexy thing. Have I evolved it since then? Yes, because I've had the funds to be able to do that. It doesn't have to be this Apple Fitness Plus-esque format. It was the attention to detail, the follow through, and the hustle and hard work to make sure that these people were reaching what they wanted to be as in person and tangible and accessible to them as I could be.
So right? you get someone probably through a recommendation from someone else. That's usually typically one of the best ways to get people.
Right.
And then you get them and you're like, I can set you up on a program, and you're using this Google Docs sheet, either an Excel sheet or something like Word, writing up their workout, how many reps, and you email them, you call them,
so we would do like a FaceTime call for a consultation. I would actually have them do a squat assessment, hinge assessment, press assessment online, and just so I could see them and what they're doing, so I understood their movement patterns. And then even though it's not in person, I could at least get a understanding of their posture and their center of gravity and what needed to be done foundationally speaking. And I was able to build a program off that. I recorded a bunch of videos at home in my living room with my horrible mother-in-law curtains. So these are some of the sexiest fitness videos you will ever see. But I started very mom and pop. It wasn't anything, I wouldn't go home and say like, this is the business model, but that's how I continue to evolve. It's just, it doesn't need to be, stay with the foundations. The more personal you are with this, the more accessible you are to this, to your people with regards to online, the more successful you're going to be. It's when you start sending out cookie cutter programs and generic fitness stuff, that's when the online thing is not going to be successful for you. You're still servicing people.
And I'm seeing Kevin nod. And so I'm pulling on you, man. What are your thoughts on that?
I just love it because I think a lot of people get so caught up in training that they forget the personal training. And so hearing Eric say that, and I know Paul's about it, is, the hinge assessment, the squat assessment. Even if we're going to be distant, I want to watch you move a little bit, because an exercise is just an expression of a human movement pattern. And an exercise is just a specific application. And so I can find a way to make you hinge that works for you, that doesn't make you loathe the hinge day. And I can still make it hard. So the question I always say is, what is the hardest thing you can do well? And that's what I'm going to program. And so when people are successful, especially via the online, where you can't be there in person, give them a pat on the back, or like kind of talk them up into a set, that's when you get return clients, because they're able to do the workout and be like, wow, I'm tired, I feel challenged, but wow, Eric is really considering my needs. Like, I feel successful after this workout. And so my biggest thing has always been, I'm like, hey, I might not answer right away because, we all have lives. But if you're in the middle of a set or a workout and you have a question, just text it or email it to me, and I will answer it that day. But I don't want you to lose mojo. And if you're curious about something, I will get you the answer. So like Eric, I don't share them on YouTube because I never really wanted to be YouTube or Insta famous. But I have a reservoir of probably 7,000 videos that go over specific techniques. And like him, they're not the best backdrop in history. Some are in my living room. I even did one in my bathroom because I needed to use a mirror so that you could see.
We don't want to know this.
I needed a mirror so that they could see the front side of shoulder elevation depression as well as the back side. And I was like, watch my shoulder blade. So what I say to everyone watching is, we get caught up in an economy where we see Peloton, we see Apple Plus, we see Beachbody, even though I'd argue Beachbody is sort of in lap by Peloton in terms of production value at this point. but you're not expected to compete with someone that has $50 million to burn on marketing. Or, you know, if you guys follow the stock market and trading it all, you look at Peloton's S1, they were projecting to be in debt for the first 10 years because of how much they spent on tech and production value. So we can't put those expectations on ourselves. But if you go deeper, like Eric stated, and you develop real personal connections and you keep that in tune, oh my God, people will work with you until the day you die or they die.
And before we started the webinar, I was saying, I mean, because like I put on kind of a blouse and I'm wearing shorts and tennis shoes because I'm running out the door right after this to go take a yoga class on the beach. And I've got these incredible videos in my basement, like the access to this. But I want to work with the person. I want to hear their jokes. I'm distanced, you know, from everyone, but I need that personal connection. So you guys at home, if you're wondering how these gentlemen have been able to develop these businesses, or you have specific questions, please put them in the chat box. We'll listen to you. We'll answer you. So what's the best way that you guys might see to balance your loyalty to the clubs as well as to your online clients? Now, Paul is on one end. He's on, I own this club, you know, I'm your big brother, don't screw me, okay? And then, but Kevin, how are you managing this? And you're also training a lot of kids, right?
So where I'm located in Springfield, Virginia, the St. James, we're a 450,000 square foot facility. So I got to say one aspect is that social distancing is incredibly easy, even indoors for us. But nonetheless, what we've asked of our trainers is during the early phase of the pandemic, it was sort of the Wild West. And I, as a lifelong trainer prior to this corporate role, was like, I wasn't going to look, I wasn't going to pry. We all got mouths to feed, families to support. Then I stood up our protocol and what was expected for our virtual product. And it is now that anyone that you were kind of training, if you can at least get them involved in our digital service and show us, you know, that you are flying the St. James flag, that's what we expect. Now, obviously, like any big brand, even small brands, you do not get to come in here, take our members, go out the door with them. That is a complete issue. That is technically, that is theft, right? We spent the marketing dollars, the acquisition dollars, and then you go make money on the side. So that is an immediate breach of contract. But what we really do is we say, listen, you guys are in a field in which people need you at varying levels. If you have things going on the outside, at least give us 60 sessions a month between virtual and your live in person, because we're open in Virginia, you know. Between that, give us this. And if you have some stuff on the side, by all means, and with our strength and conditioning, which is a whole aspect of our business, we've asked that our coaches, hey, if you're working with other teams, anything, awesome. If you can, wear St. James gear, you know, show your loyalty to us in terms of your apparel, mention that they could train here, but we're not like putting pressure on them that they cannot work for anyone else, because, you know, it's an abundance mindset is what I've tried to instill. Is if we all go into this and we think, hey, I got to protect myself from that trainer and that brand, we're going to end up eating at each other and hurting each other as an entire industry. And as corny as this sounds, right now we actually do need to hold hands. Like Lifetime needs to consult with Equinox. Equinox needs to consult with this brand. And everybody needs to kind of work together and say, okay, how are we going to get out of this very unique mess? The first major challenge to hit the 40-year-old fitness industry. We've been on a growth path since the beginning. This is our first real big aha moment as an industry.
Yeah, and when competition is not the focus of every webinar, every workshop, every article. Now, we've got Laura asked a question. I thought this is very interesting. What's the best digital format to do classes and personal training? And the second part of the question was, how do you charge for classes and training? And then she asked, how do you get new clients? I work with seniors, what. I'm like, oh my God, okay, that's the rest of the 45 minutes, okay? But Kevin, I know you talked about Google Docs, which is great, and I know you said you started on Skype, and I think you shifted.
That was Eric.
Was it Eric who did it? And you started at Skype, and then where did you switch? You went to Zoom?
So I started on Skype and FaceTime, and then from there we moved into WebEx, but that just got hairy, and it was crashing quite a bit. And so then we landed upon Zoom. I landed upon Zoom this year because that's what I was doing for core health and fitness, and how we were, and what we were doing with you at SCW. And it just seems the most universal friendly platform to be able to do it. And finally have my like external microphone and the whole system set up. So I know the whole process and ins and outs of it. It tends to be the most consistent and reliable platform to be able to host training and virtual classes. And be able to share music and make it an experience, especially like for classes, you know, and clients alike. You're trying to create an experience through a digital platform. It's not just turning on a screen and counting 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. So that would be my advice to you is play with Zoom. You know, whatever you use, make sure you understand the ins and outs of it, because things will happen. I was teaching a class on Saturday, and for whatever reason, things were not so friendly, had to restart the whole 9 yards. So whatever you use, make sure you know the system you're using, because otherwise that will create more frustration. Not only for you, it's stressful as the professional, but your client group on the other side of the screen, it's quite frustrating because they have their time that they've set aside and they're not expecting that to happen.
We did this training. Jeff Howard and I created this certification, and we're also going to be working with Jessica Maurer and how to use Zoom, because it's not that easy.
No.
And you need to do the version that's $15 a month so that you can host over 40 minutes. We all know that. And you need, if all of you own Zoom, you guys need to refresh Zoom. You need to shut it off, restart it, and update it, because they did a wonderful integration for music. Yep. and your mic, whether you use an external mic or AirPods or whatever you're using. But we did a virtual certification. I know Adam, I think he's already put it in there, but Adam's helping us run this webinar. But it is complicated, but it can be done. I mean, if I can learn it, I think anybody can learn it. But Zoom has been really good. And charging, like what would you charge, let's say, Eric, a live client that your personal training face-to-face, what would you charge a Zoom client? And then what would you charge one of your Google Docs clients that you're simply supplying them, and I say simply, but we know it's not so simple, but simply supplying them the workout and they follow it themselves?
So, I mean, I'll go ahead because it's public information on my website. I mean, my month-to-month like program development online clients are $100 a month, and that gives them a new program every 4 weeks, because I'm not a believer of change it up every week. You have your program and you progress that program for 4 weeks, and then we switch it up after that. But with that, I have office hours that come with it. So they can contact me at any time between 7 a.m. and 7 p.m. Monday through Friday, and 8 a.m. to 1 p.m. on Saturdays. I try to respond within the 24-hour period. If not, I'll get to them as quickly as I can, no later than the next day. We do bi-weekly in-person video check-ins where I get to assess them and their body and their progress. We look at different movements that are giving them trouble. But then, like, if we're pulling in, like, just let's say you are like, can we do a training session together? I'll take my personal rate and drop it by about 35% for virtual training, if that makes sense. It's like in-person training, I drop it by about 35% because there's no gas involved, there's no nada involved. It's not the same experience. Same thing with group training. I take that off about 25% of my normal rate. Per person, if that makes sense. I take my group rate and I kind of divide it by let's say 10 people and drop it by about 20%. Or what I've done is like $10 a head.
Okay. All right. Very.
But whatever you do, don't undervalue yourself.
Facts.
Yeah.
Do not undervalue yourself. What you do matters. And to the point of being loyal to the club, and maybe gentlemen, correct me if I'm wrong. I have never been in a management position at gyms for various reasons, but I feel like the trainer and the group instructor right now has a stronger voice, because even though a member may walk into a club and they saw let's say they see the advertisement for the space, whoever they come in contact with first, instructor or trainer alike, that is who the brand becomes. It is no longer Lifetime. It is no longer Equinox. It is, or YMCA. It is now Sarah Cooperman. That is who it becomes. And so I do believe that we are in an aha moment, because sometimes I feel the trainer does, or instructor gets taken advantage of. And I'm not speaking for any of your facilities specifically. I'm talking about in general in my experience. I have had personal experience with that.
Yeah, and Paul, what are your thoughts on this? Because being a club owner, you've got to, how are you pricing it? A live personal training session, something that's online, and possibly writing a course. And then how do you do your split with your trainer?
So I've actually mentioned this before in a previous panel, Sarah, if you remember. I like to say that an hour of your time is an hour of your time. So the rate is the same for virtual or in person, because you're still using the synapses of your mind to create the effectiveness of the program. You're still providing motivation, and you're still giving cues, whether they not be tactile, you're still giving the cues of how to improve and maximize the quality of that movement. So my split is the same for my staff if they're doing a virtual or in person. But what I could do is, Eric, you brought up a great point, that if one of your staff members has done an amazing job of creating client retention, whether it's virtual or in-house, then perhaps like a quarterly bonus should be awarded, as opposed to always giving raises, because now you're raising your expenses. But the bonus says, you know what, you've done a fantastic job with Mr. Berkowitz for 4 months and he's still with you. I'd like to be able to give you a bonus. So you can do quarterly reviews, and if the retention is still there, then provide them the bonus for sure. But I'm a firm believer of an hour of your time is an hour of your time. So for me, as one of my main clients, the number one producing client in my facility moved to Arizona and moved to Hawaii. So he's working for the Blackstone Hotel Group out west. So I'm still doing virtual work with him in Maui or the Biltmore in Scottsdale, Arizona, or Palm Springs. But I'm doing virtual with him from my garage at Sunday at 4 p.m. An hour of my time is the same hour of my time.
That's interesting. Kelly Roberts, who runs our personal training certification, does the same thing. But I still have this tactile connection with people that I hear what both of you guys are saying. So Kevin, it's your decision. What are your thoughts on this?
I am on the hour of your time is an hour of your time side. Not that I don't understand Eric's point of view, because it is like this. It doesn't feel the same. I can't load you up. Your home doesn't necessarily have the same amount of equipment. I'm not right there to tap your lumbar spine into, neutrality, or, tap your lats for greater tension in a hinge. So there is some loss, but to Paul's point, that I almost feel like I work harder in my virtual sessions, because if I don't pay attention, if I'm not watching everything, an injury is even more likely to happen, because we're using some funky equipment. Like kitchen counters are meant for cooking, not for push-ups, but people are using whatever they've got. It is requiring me to be 100% present. And just the same, I've had a lot of people talk to me about, like, Kevin, how do you sell virtual training? It's not the same. Our clients hate it. And I'm like, no, they don't. They want to work with you. They want to be more fit. They want to stay active. If you go into it with this, okay, I'll charge you less because it is less, you are quite literally communicating to your clients that I think this is worse, so you think this is worse. And it's this negativity loop. And so it's going to be even easier for them to say, hey, I tried it, I don't love it. And so it's almost, and I don't like to be too salesy with it, but if we look at the psychology behind sales and marketing, we find that you can sell someone a less than optimal product with a great packaging and an amazing amount of excitement, and people will fight out the door, right? Think about every single time Apple releases a phone. How marginally better are they? I'm not talking about like oh, we had a 5 megapixel camera. Now it's 5.1. And I don't even know megapixels, so I don't even know if that's the answer. But the point being is that there is marginal differences between the 9 and the 10. And yet, people were ready to fist fight each other in the freezing cold and wait for hours and hours because they believed in the value behind the product. And so we have to, as coaches, no matter who you are, what you charge, you could be in a market where 20 is inexpensive, or like I'm in DC and I won't train for less than 125. And that's not, you know, I'm certainly not driving around a Ferrari, but that's what the market says I can charge. I believe in my services. And so we must believe beyond all that, whether it's virtual, whether I'm sending you programs, or whether I'm standing next to you in a bougie health club, that my rate is my rate because I deliver that service, that experience. Going to Eric's point about the music, it's an experience to work with one of us, to work with one of you on this call, not just a session. I don't even like calling them sessions. I call
what you're saying is I'm cheap.
I'm saying discount.
Guilty as charged. Guilty as charged.
We're so glad you're here. But the only thing, the only thing I'm going to disagree with you on, Kevin, is Apple does screw up. Okay, remember that computer years ago. It just didn't work. If something doesn't work, I don't care how bougie it is, how beautiful it is. You can go into a gorgeous health club. You can have this exciting marketing. If the quality of the product is there, if the instructor's not there, it is. I think we're hearing from these, I feel like I'm in the Brady Bunch, these two gentlemen that we've got to supply that quality and just start. If it's a Google Doc, whatever it is, just start, but it's got to be packaged right. And Paul, I'm going to go.
I was just going to say that, I mean, to touch on what Kevin said, you know, if they're coming from Kevin from Equinox or Lifetime and all this beautiful equipment, they're seeking your services because I've said in the past that resources may be limited, but imagination and creativity are not. Thus, your use of those resources becomes as such. So they're seeking your services because of the value of your capacity to still give a great experience and physical benefit with those limited resources going from Equinox to their basement or their garage. And they're seeking you because of your talent, and there's the value.
Amen. Also, if you don't have a t-shirt business with some of these by the end of this call, then we got problems. That is
we're going to talk.
All right. Now, I got a really good question from Nicole. What is the best tip for getting your name out there? Because, you know, some people, they're used to going to a facility and I'm given clients, or the clients come to the facility and they chat with each other. And that's how they get the recommendations. And it might sound kind of strange, but personally, I'm not that, I'll put my dog on Instagram and Facebook. Everybody knows Buster. Buster is a star. That's my,
we love Buster.
Yeah, but I'm not. Buster went to the vet today. $780 at the vet. Oh my God. I love that freaking dog. But so how do we get our names out there? How can we, Paul, you look like you're ready to go.
I would say utilize and maximize every resource that costs nothing. Create your own Facebook page, business page. Create your own Instagram handle, all right? All that we can do is use time and effort as your commodity, all right? So if you're making content for your specific niche, maybe it's 40 over fitness, perhaps it's working with teenage volleyball girls, whatever it may be, whatever your niche is gonna be, keep producing video content on your free services, your group, your Instagram handle. And then if you wanna put a tiny amount of ad spend on those things, $1 a day, $2 a day, in the area codes in which you operate your radius, then by continually chipping away and building that iceberg that no one is seeing yet, the content, and then doing strategic ad spend with very minimal cost of these resources that are available digitally, then you're going to begin to pave attention and awareness of your brand and your niche in your local community.
And Eric, you're nodding. How have you done this?
So the best way you can do this is Instagram. Instagram, Twitter, Facebook, all of it. The more free advertisement and just in being thoughtful about what you're putting out there. Don't just put out content to put out content. Have reason behind it. And to Paul's point, you need to have a niche. And my personal coach, my business coach that I work with, her whole thing is, if you have one client or you have 20 clients, you give them all the passion that you have, and that has to translate into how you present yourself into the world as well. And so, whatever you're posting on Instagram, it needs to match up. Whatever your channels you're using, it has to match up from day to day. It can't just be like, hey, I was over here with my dog yesterday, and we're back to fitness, and then doing so. You want to keep a consistent message of who you are and what you are. If you are using these social platforms, a good thing to do is kind of go into Google and say, what are the trending hashtags, and do they line up with what you are posting that day? The more you can be consistent with posting, the better. If you go dark for a while and then come back, don't expect a lot of attention. And with regards to Instagram, stories are your best friends. The more you can be posting and active on stories, the more views you're going to get. People are not necessarily going to the feed to look at what you're saying so much as to, they want to know what you're doing. And I would avoid the whole like new post thing as well. That's not necessarily the most, if you're doing virtual thing, that seems that it's more of an attention grabber. Like, look at me. For trainers especially, put out your clients, put out your success stories, and be vulnerable. Be vulnerable with your population. The more real and human you are, the more open you are about your struggles and what you've gone through, the more realistic it's going to be that you're going to get people to engage with you. And then when you do have people engaging with you on Instagram or Facebook, engage back and make it a daily habit. And I don't care, like I schedule like 5 p.m. to 6 p.m. at the end of my day to answer messages via social media. I know that sounds really stupid, but I mean, you actually have to plan it into your day. Otherwise it can go by. And then people think you're ignoring them and all you're wanting is attention.
That's great. And Kevin, you were nodding your head. So I'm assuming you're in agreement. And
so I'm sort of an interesting case study because I didn't go too hard into social media. I would joke. I tell people, a lot of clients especially, what is your superpower? Go harder into that. So whatever it is in the world that you feel you're amazing at, you need to double down on. I learned it at a young age, even though I tried to fight it and be a super cool athlete, I have a gift for the written word. I've written a 400-page book, multiple ebooks. I write tons of articles on a daily basis. Heck, I got my current role because I could write things SOP style. But double down on whatever you're best at. So for me, it was long-form content, whether it was PT on the Net, PTDC, T-Nation, bodybuilding.com, contributing to other trainers' site. I'm very thankful for people like Dr. John Russin or Tony Gentlecore, Pete McCall, people who were just like, hey, I really like what you have to say, and they got it out there. And then as you add that credential, don't hide the fact that you were mentioned by something else, because what I've learned is customers in any business want just enough social proof. And you can give yourself that with a ton of likes on Instagram or the stories, and that's fine and dandy. But what I have found is that if you have a talent and you can share it with the world, and then people can validate that talent, whether it is through their social media or through referral business, it is this authentic you that is constantly presented. And so I would find that clients were like, yeah, I had a friend send me your article and you sound like you know what you're doing. And then you worry about wowing them with your personality, your interpersonal connection. Here's a freebie for everyone. Start every single first session with this following question. If you could wave a magic wand over your life right now and you could change one thing about your health and fitness, what would it be? What you're going to learn is the number one challenge or problem in that person's life, but you didn't attack it in a negative way. And so even using communication strategies can be your superpower to building your business, because suddenly somebody goes, well, you know, someone would watch my kids so I could finally go to the gym. And you'd say, that's great. I have a daycare, you know, or whatever your thing is. And so you can build your business by being your superpower. So that was a really long way of saying, whatever it is you feel you're most amazing at, double, triple, quadruple down on it, because that's going to last, especially if you're passionate about it as well, because you're going to want to do it. I learned, I'll wrap up with this. I learned that I didn't love the daily post. I always felt like I was forcing it, and like I might have something to say, but I was like, oh yay, push-ups, or oh, squat guys, it's great for your butt. And it always felt like this contrived thing versus, wow, I've been really thinking about the 6 dynamic functions of the scapula and how it matters for moms staying at home with kids. How can I write an article for moms while also teaching them that the scapula has 6 anatomical physiological functions? And so I went that direction.
Because it felt natural. And because SCW is going to republish your articles, right?
Exactly.
There we go. And it's interesting because you also want to attract clients that you know you can work with successfully. And if they're attracted to the way you present yourself, it is just going to work. When Nicole did ask Eric about how did you find a business coach? And I'm wondering, do you gentlemen like mentor people or coach people? Kevin's nodding. So
yeah, I'll just, since I was the last to talk, I'll be the first this time. There's 2 things I believe in: unofficial mentors, and those are the people who just out of the goodwill of their heart grab you and say, hey, have you ever thought about this? And those are the people you can go back to because they have shown an interest in you. I will say, when you go looking for the other one, which is the hired business coach, take your time and do your research. There's a whole lot of people that, especially in our industry, you see somebody who's looks like they're a day over 16. They're like, I'll help you get an 8-figure PT business in 2 days. And you're like, do you even drive a car? But do your research, look for customer reviews, just like you would, buy a house, you would want to do some verification. Any great business coach that you can hire is going to be more than happy to talk to you, just like a therapist. If you work with a quality, sit-down psychological therapist, they'll be more than happy to have a 15, 20-minute conversation with you prior to you hiring, just to see if there's a personality fit. Because the last thing you want to do is hire a business coach. And I made this mistake and spent about 10 grand on someone who's super famous and their Instagram is super awesome and they're super smart and everybody loves them. But the way he talked to me was so disrespectful. And it was constantly, if you don't do it my way, I don't even want to coach you anymore. And it was like, well, dude, I'm trying. Versus a business coach that's like, okay, how can I get into your life and give you tools to build your life versus do my method or else.
Very cool. Very cool. And we did get, and I am going to go to you 2 gentlemen about the same question. We did get a question about liability because we talked about the risk of injuries, and everybody knows I'm a lawyer, that thank God I don't practice, but I did marry one. So this is really good. I write up the waivers and he edits. It's fabulous. So we included a great, as business advice, not as legal advice, because I can't practice law in Florida or Virginia, or where are you now? California or Arizona, right? Yeah, 1 foot in each state. But we will include the waiver of liability that we wrote as business advice. And there's 2 waivers you should use. If you're going to be seeing people face to face with that social distancing, et cetera, with the mask on, you've got to use a special COVID release. You have to. This is kind of what most of the law firms and most of the lawyers are advocating. There is a general waiver of liability, and it's really iffy whether or not, if you put a class out there, a group fitness class out there that's just on just out there on FaceTime, and it's up there and it's a Venmo donation that you're asking people to make, or it's on YouTube, whatever, and people are paying you. It's just basically they're kind of exercising at their own risk. You just have to put like a general waiver out there. So we'll make sure to include this with the recording so you guys have it. But Paul, what are your thoughts on what Kevin was talking about finding a coach? Well, Eric, you have a coach.
Yes. Mm-hmm.
And how did you find your coach, and what's your experience with that?
I found my coach through my husband. It's his best friend of 25 years. And she has taken I did my homework on her. I mean, it wasn't like just, oh, okay, great. This is how it's going to work. I did my homework on her, and her her specialty is taking smaller businesses that really don't have a cohesive message, working with the individual to bring out what it is they're truly trying to get after, vision, mission, and how to put it all, how to create a business from the ground up, which is something that I didn't do. My degrees are in music, and then I went back and did some stuff in exercise science. So I was not, I am not the business, I don't have the business acumen. And, to your points earlier, I guess I'm still cheapening myself. So, after tonight, the rates are going up. But, but anything, it's kind of, I equate whenever you're engaging someone to, you're paying them to help you. So they don't work for you, but it's a relationship, and that relationship has to be like it is like a marriage, or, I've worked with singing coaches all my life, physical coaches, personal trainers. You're interviewing them, and you got to make sure that it's going to work for you and that it's going to work for them as well. Because here's the deal. You can pretty much tell how they view people within the first 30 minutes of your first initial interaction. They're going to either make you feel good about yourself, and they're really going to listen to what you're saying, or they're just going to say, well, here's what I can do for you. And if all they're talking about is what they can do for you, you got to run. You got to cut and run. Because what they should be doing is listening to what it is your goals and your dreams are, no matter how big, scary, freaky they may seem. They need to be able to say, I hear you're saying this. Let's meet you where you're at, and we'll start from there. It's just like training with a regular personal trainer. So, start following a bunch of people, and it's kind of like when you're looking for music. Don't go to the top 10 that you see. Go to the bottom 200. Because I guarantee you those people down there are really scrounging for opportunity and looking to change people's lives. So, just start doing your homework, look around ask for referrals, start talking to people. I'm happy to give you mine. Her name is Beata Chalette. She's from Germany. She's fantastic.
Can you type it in the chat box?
Absolutely.
If you don't mind, Eric? Thank you.
Ladies.
I don't care how kind of successful you are, or how successful you might, feel. There's times where I felt like, oh my gosh, SCW is knocking it out of the park. And there's other times I wake up, it's like an every other day thing in the pandemic. Like, oh my God, how am I going to survive? What are we going to do without these live events? I have a friend, and I'm just Ann Gilbert. We talk a couple times a week. We try to hold ourselves accountable to things. And sometimes that business coach is a friend that you respect, that can mentor. I have another friend, Connie, and I can talk to Connie and I can say, blah, 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 figure out certain things where you're going. Really helps as well. And Paul, you were nodding, you're the leader here on that, on your business. And where do you go for your advice? And I know we're getting out of time here, so you get 1 minute.
Okay, no problem. So I was raised by a single mother, and I'm an only child. So from an early age, my mom always brought good men in my area, in my inner circle. So I've always taken value in organically clinging to men who want to see me succeed. So I have a client who's been a longtime friend and mentor who's involved with real estate and is an attorney. I have others that are involved in stockbroking. So the foundation of the interaction has been as a friend first, and they truly have my back and my sincere interests. So I organically cling to men who've been successful themselves, who want to see me do the same. So they have essentially been my unofficial mentors, like Kevin said. You guys both gave great advice with regards to our mentors, and make sure that they do truly, have your best interests. I love a quote that says, dismiss the Buddha who knows the meaning of life. Seek the one who knows he hasn't found it. So with that, find the mentors that organically have your interests without having to artificially pay or truly want to tell you what they can do for you. So,
I'm going to end with that. I think this has been really wonderful. I feel like we could talk for a whole nother 45 minutes. So, which is terrific. We're going to try to do a panel, make sure we do a panel on personal training. I'm going to ask you gentlemen to please, to join us at the next live stream mania, because it's really very, very valuable. And what I love is that like what Paul was saying, we all look in a mirror and figure, ooh, I could do that better. I could do, oh, and there's the dog, right? Okay, there we go. This is it. There's my dog. See, there's Buster. $780 at the vet today. Yeah, that's what it's worth. Okay, guys, I want to thank Adam. Adam is our wonderful, one of our wonderful on our creative team. He helps with all our webinars. He helps with all our certifications. Thank you, Adam, for putting this together. Kevin, thank you so much. Can't wait to get some of your articles. Eric, I love this. I want to hear about the price range. And Paul, thanks so much for joining us. You guys are great. Thank you all for staying on and sharing this Tuesday evening with us. We'll see you Thursday. It's another kind of personal training focused one. So we'll see you for 45 minutes Thursday night. Thank you all. Have a good night.